Today I'm going to give away a free t-shirt, bring you comics news, bring you the book of the week, and reveal the books I bought this week. How y'all doing? I'm Victor, and you are watching a Comic Hero Show. Now kick that logo! Welcome to this week's edition of the Comic Hero Show. I'm your host, Victor Nunley, and I am the Comic Hero. This month is NICU Awareness Month. Now, NICU stands for Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. Now, a NICU specializes in the care of sick or premature infants. And the first NICU was designed and built at Yale New Haven Hospital in 1960. And then after that, it spread like wildfire. Now, the care of premature infants is nothing new. Over in France, and somewhere in the 17th century, believe it or not, incubators were invented, and then there were special, and then later on, special areas were designated for sick babies or babies born prematurely. But the NICU really got started in 1968, Yale New Haven Hospital, and I personally know some people who spent their first few days, the first few days or first few weeks or even months of life in a NICU, and I know the parents of folks that of children or adults that have spent their first few lives in NICU, and I know some parents who unfortunately had children that were in the NICU and didn't make it. This episode is for y'all. Now, neonatal stands for the first 28 days of life, and that's usually how long a baby is in the NICU. However, there have been instances where babies have been in a NICU for a third of a year or more. But this episode is for y'all. This is a NICU Awareness Comic Hero tee. And inside the speech bubble, I have hearts, and then baby footprints, and then right here I have a ribbon with baby footprints on them. And also this episode is also for the doctors and nurses who tirelessly take care of all these babies so they can get well and no longer have to be in the NICU and go home. This episode's for y'all. And I want to thank y'all, and because we hear so much about children being in the NICU, but we never really hear that much about the doctors and nurses who take care of them. So I mean, y'all need to be commended on your services. I mean, if no one else will say it, then I will. All right, it's time to give away a free t-shirt. Alright, on last week's episode, I asked which Marvel character is the well-known host of the Carnage symbiote. Now, last week on the show and on social media, I gave a hint, and the hint was that Woody Harrelson played this character at the very end of the Venom movie that came out last year. Well, the correct answer is Cletus Cassidy. And 11 people have answered correctly, and because they've answered correctly, their names have been entered in a drawing for a free tee. And that drawing takes place right now. So, the winner of the free tee for this week's episode of the show is Michelle Guyon from Monroe, Louisiana. So congratulations, Michelle. Win yourself a free Comic Hero tee. Alright, here's the question for next week's episode, and this is a Wonder Woman question. Well, what is the name of the black Amazonian who briefly took up the mantle of Wonder Woman in the 1970s? Everyone who answers correctly will be entered in a drawing for a free tee on episode 278, which, by the way, is the 6th anniversary episode. Alright, now it's time for Comically Speaking, so without further ado, let's talk comics! Alright, there are 6 things we're going to talk about in this segment of Comically Speaking, and the first one is that the miniseries House of 10, one of the 2 miniseries that X-Men miniseries that are written by Jonathan Hickman reveals a huge part of what Professor X wants to do. Now, I just read House of 10 number 4, and in it, they found out, well, the X-Men found out about the mother mold. Now, you're probably wondering, what's a mother mold? A mother mold is a satellite factory that builds master molds. And of course, master molds build the Sentinels. So the X-Men go on a mission to take down mother mold because, well, they're mutants and, Sentinels kill mutants. And it resulted in the death of several characters. My understanding is that a lot of the deceased characters that were in this issue, and then other deceased characters that came before them that were X-Men or either affiliated with the X-Men are going to be coming back from the dead. And honestly, I love this. Well, because it's comics, and no one really stays dead in comics. Well, if they do, not for very long. But I'm really enjoying what Hickman is doing with House of 10 and Powers of 10, and I can't wait to read the first issue of X-Men and all the other books that are related to it beginning next month. Alright, now the second thing is that Brooklyn Nine-Nine actress Stephanie Beatriz, who plays Detective Rosa Diaz, is interested in playing the lead role in the She-Hulk TV series coming to Disney+. She definitely has, she definitely has the look to play the character. But the only thing that I'm really concerned about is her height. She's only 5'6". Now, I'm only saying only 5'6" because they would have to use CGI to make her a lot taller because She-Hulk, I believe, is either 6 feet or above. I don't know the character's actual height. And honestly, my pick would probably have to go to Mary Chieffo from Star Trek Discovery. Now, she plays the Klingon L'Rell on the series, and she's 6 feet tall. And I think if they cast her, then they won't have to do very much with CGI like they had to do with Mark Ruffalo. But either way, I think either Chieffo or Beatriz would be, either one would be great, and I'll definitely watch because it's about time She-Hulk came to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. All right, now the third thing I'm going to talk about, and this is all right, now a few weeks ago, I reported that Sony has shut the door completely with Spider-Man rejoining the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We thought now it really wasn't specified as to why, but now we know why. Now they didn't really shut the door. The reason is actually it's just been put on hold mainly because there's a chance that Apple may buy Sony. Now if this happens, if Apple buys Sony, then they'll have to give up the media rights of Spider-Man over to Marvel Studios. And I think that's only fair. And honestly, I hope it happens because we've seen what just how relevant and just an unbelievable reimagining of the character that we've in terms of the big screen that we've seen with Spider-Man, beginning with Captain America Civil War, and then with Spider-Man Homecoming, and then with the Avengers Infinity War, and then Avengers Endgame, and then most recently Spider-Man Far From Home, which came out in theaters this summer. Now, I'm a firm believer that Sony having joint custody with Marvel Studios was the right thing for the franchise in terms of the big screen. But it's about time that Sony just gives Marvel's Spider-Man up to Marvel Studios, because after all, Spider-Man is a Marvel character, and when you think Marvel, Spider-Man is one of the first characters that comes to mind. I mean, along with other characters like Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, the Hulk, and the X-Men. All right, and all right. Now the fourth thing is that in the movie Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Quicksilver is rumored to return. Now keep in mind, Quicksilver, who was played by Aaron Taylor Johnson in Avengers Age of Ultron back in 2015, dies. And he dies at the hand of Ultron. I think this is great, because the Scarlet Witch hadn't been right ever since he was killed. And then her life even took an even worse turn for the worse when Vision was killed in Avengers Infinity War. And I think, and then personally, I like Quicksilver. And when I read this news, and this is being corny of me, really didn't see that coming. But I'm totally on board for that. I mean, I love, Benedict Cumberbatch's portrayal of Doctor Strange, and can't wait to see his movie. All right, now the fifth thing, Marvel's been eyeing a lot of actors to play the role of the Thing in the Fantastic Four movie that's going to be coming real soon. The first, Dwayne Johnson, which I don't know if he'd be a good fit for that character. And then they even thought about Jonah Hill, which I honestly hope they don't cast. But now they're eyeing Seth Rogen to play the role. Now I can see this. Believe it or not, I can actually see Seth Rogen playing this role. I mean, he definitely has the humor and the and he's also played a lot of street savvy characters in past movies, and I think he could pull this off. And I would just most definitely like to hear him say, "It's clobbering time!" We'll see. All right, the last thing. This weekend, which was Batman Signal Day, a new Batman creative team has been named to take over the Batman series. Now, it was previously written by Tom King, who is, oh man, I gushed about him in last week's episode when I did the book of the week. I'll gush about him now. He's done such a great job on that book, and has been writing that book since 2016. And most recently, the story arc that he's writing called City of Bane, City of Bane, or should I say City of Bane, is quite phenomenal, and gonna really miss him. But when I found out who the new creative team was, I thought, oh, all right, everything's gonna be just fine. It's going to be James Tynion IV, who actually wrote Detective Comics right after Rebirth in 2016, and Tony Daniel will become the regular series penciler. Now, Tony Daniel is no stranger to Batman. He's actually penciling the City of Bane story arc right now, but he has been penciling Batman since 2007, and I've enjoyed seeing his artwork. Whether it's that, whether he's been, he was also the regular series artist on the dearly departed Superman Wonder Woman series, and I just can't wait to see what these two have in store, because Tynion delivered in Detective Comics. Daniel delivers whenever he pencils any Batman book. Super excited about this. All right, that's it for Comically Speaking. Now it's time for the book of the week. Let's do this. All right, right, my book of the week is Wonder Woman. Now, the current volume first started in 2016 after Rebirth, and it was first written by Greg Rucka, who's no stranger to Wonder Woman whatsoever. And he had a very lengthy run, but then he stepped away from the book, and then along the way there have been guest writers such as James Robinson and James Tynion IV. But then after the Witching Hour story arc, which was a crossover event with Justice League Dark, G. Willow Wilson took over the book. Now, G. Willow Wilson co-created the Kamala Khan Ms. Marvel, and she has done wonders on this book. And I mean, well, excuse the pun, but I mean, she has brought Diana to a whole new level, and we've seen artwork by Jesus Marino and Aaron Lopresti and Zermanico, just to name a few. And most recently in a book, we find out something about Wonder Woman's past that we never knew. That there was a voided dimension where another version of Hippolyta ruled Themyscira, and she was and she wasn't as compassionate as the Hippolyta in that we all know and love. And they even fought for the right of Themyscira, but then this alien race from an atom planet, where their ruler's name is Atomia. Yeah, I know that sounds cheesy. Well, she comes and they both beat her, and they made a truce that they would stay connected. And then just when you thought that we thought that Themyscira was separated from the rest of the world, you find out that the veil finally comes off, and then Wonder Woman finds all the Themyscirans that she had feared that had perished, that they were all fine, including her own. I mean, they didn't find her mother at first. We find out that Grail, who is half Themysciran and half Apocalyptic, her father being Darkseid, had taken the throne of Themyscira away from Hippolyta. Well, and then she also had this mystic weapon, but then they take it away from her, and then Lex Luthor, in an extra scene at the very end of this story arc, ends up telling Cheetah about it, and then she goes to Themyscira and recovers it. And then she returns back to the U.S. and looking to kill Wonder Woman, but instead she ends up killing Aphrodite. And then Wonder Woman goes after, and then that's where I left off. I last read number 77, which is part 1 of the story arc entitled Loveless. But I'm really loving the direction this book is taking. I'm really loving, that that Themyscira is no longer separating itself from the rest of the world, and that way Wonder Woman can go back and forth from Earth to the island of Themyscira whenever she pleases. But G. Willow Wilson, I mean, I've been a fan of her work ever since her days with Ms. Marvel, and I'm a fan now. All right, that's it for the book of the week. Now let's get to the comics I bought this week.
Comic books I bought this week.
All right, first up is Flashboard number 1. Spider-Man number 1. Now I need to talk about this for a minute. This book is written by J.J. Abrams and his son Henry Abrams, with art by Sarah Pichelli. And it's been, and this book is very popular, and it's even been advertised on TV. Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man number 12. Iron Man number 16. Valkyrie Jane Foster number 3. Absolute Carnage number 3. House of 10 number 5. Silver Surfer Black number 4. Aquaman number 52. Batman number 79. Justice League number 32. Supergirl number 34. Superman number 15. Teen Titans number 34. Guardians of the Galaxy number 3. Guardians of the Galaxy number 4. Guardians of the Galaxy number 6. And finally, Guardians of the Galaxy number 9. Alright, that's 18, which brings the total number of comics that I've bought since December of 1997 to 9,614. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Here's a question again for a free tee for next week's episode. What is the name of the Black Amazonian who briefly took on the mantle of Wonder Woman? Everyone who answers correctly will be entered in a drawing for a free tee on next week's episode. And congratulations to Michelle Gaillon from Monroe, Louisiana, who won a free tee on this week's episode. And, kudos to all the doctors and nurses who take care of these sick and premature babies who enter the world. It's because of you that these children leave the NICU eventually and go on to live fantastic lives. And also, I just want to say to all the men, women, boys, and girls who spent their first few days in a NICU or even longer than that, y'all made it, and because of the NICU, you made it. And my heart goes out to all the parents whose children were in the NICU but didn't make it. It's in such a sad situation because I don't believe any parent should have to bury their child. But I think the world is a better place with NICUs, because without them, the survival rate of children would be very low, and I mean very low. I mean, right now the survival rate of children is at 95%, all because of NICUs, and that's something. I mean, that's something that's very good. But I would love to see that number be at 100. I would love it. I would love it if no children should have to die after only living for a few days. All right, now next week's episode. It's the 6th anniversary episode of the show. I'm very excited about it. I I thank God for doing the show for as long as I have. And for those of y'all that have liked the Comic Hero Fan Forum on Facebook, the shirt that I'm wearing on that episode is up. I hope y'all like it. For those of y'all that have not liked the fan forum, or if you're if you follow me on a different social media site, I'll be posting that in a few days. But really looking forward to it. It's going to be spectacular. Doing every episode of the show, regardless, is spectacular itself. But doing it for as long as I have, and just not give and stay in the course, it's all been worth it. And I love sharing my love of comics and life with y'all, and I hope to do it for a very long time. All right, I'm Victor Nunley on the Comic Hero. I'll see you next week for the 6th anniversary episode 278. So until then, be safe, be blessed, be a hero!